Now let's begin with the first stage here. The first stage is called pre-communicative spelling, where actually students are role-playing trying to write. They are not writing correctly. They're just scribbling, just putting letters, letter-like forms, numbers. They not necessarily picking the letters that corresponds with the correct sound. So you might say brother, and they might put a D in just the T, emitting the sound, and then the and they're emitting the vowel sound. So there, you will not find a specific correspondence to each letter. They just randomly picking whatever they were able to hear, and they put it down in on the paper. They usually write with uppercase letters. It makes them feel reassured that this is the correct letter. And specifically with the example of the B, in this stage they usually confuse between the B and the D. So in order for them to confirm that this is a letter B, you'll find them, even if B comes in the middle of the word, you'll find them writing B in a capital letter. They write from left to right, right to left, bottom to top. It doesn't matter, because they really did not understand yet how is writing going, the direction of writing. Yet they did not develop this, and sometimes it depends on the background, the language background they come from as an ESOL student. If they are if they speak Arabic, or they speak Chinese, or any other language that not necessarily start from left to right like English, you'll find them using different directions. If it's Arabic, they start from right to left rather, and if it's in Chinese or Japanese, you find them writing from top to bottom or bottom to top. They know that print carries messages, so they understand that what they're writing is going to deliver at the end a specific sentence or a specific information, because especially if they're exposed more to reading stories, they understand now that these sentences combine together in order to deliver messages. So they basically roughly know letters, roughly might not connect sound with letter, roughly knowing where the direction is of writing, and roughly knowing that the print carries messages. This is an example of how it would look like. As you can see, there is nothing specific written there. And they might sometimes draw a picture to identify with a specific word. If you see here that there's a writing, "This is my house," I'm sure that this is the teacher scribbling that, and we're going to talk about this technique in a little bit. Here's another writing, which is basically just did not even recognize letters. They just scribbled. Here they put some letters, P upside down, a number instead of a letter. This shows that they understand that it has to have a specific shape. Writing has to have a specific shape, but not necessarily knowing what it is. The J here is upside down. And then this is a little bit of a developed form of this stage, where they're actually putting some letters next to each other. Not necessarily they're in the right direction, not necessarily they're making one word. And if you notice that the words are just one whole sentence, there is no specific word chunking and letter chunking to make a word. So that's the very beginning stage. Now, what do I do in order to teach this stage spelling or writing specific words? First, as we said, we want them to understand that writing is chunks of words. These chunks of words create a sentence, and this sentence deliver a message. And in order to write a word, I have to use some letters. How can you develop this understanding or this awareness? Is by reading a lot to them, reading aloud, expose them to reading books, even pretend of reading. You can give them a book and have them pretend to read, but this exposure get them to see print on books. Also encourage children to write, either write their names or maybe draw a picture and write one word or a couple of words to describe it, even though we know that it might not be correct or it might only just have a combination of letters. We still know that we're exposing them to the idea of writing. Now here's what I told you that we're going to get to it in a little bit. Use LEA, where teacher is modeling and writing for the student. LEA is language experience approach, and I have here this resource for you, Language Experience Approach by Gordon and that's from the Illinois Resource Center, where it actually gives you step by step onto how to use the language experience approach. It has very specific details and steps, but specifically for teaching spelling and writing, at the end of this document you find specific strategies, like students will, if a student is drawing a picture like we saw in one of the examples, you can write scribe for that student. Ask them, what is this picture? What did you mean by this picture? And if they say, this is my family's house, then you are writing it for them under this picture. This is some sort of an exposure, and get them to see how can they write, this is my family's house, or family and house only. A best way to get students learn about the language experience approach is to get them exposed to as many word teaching as you can do. Now, the language experience approach steps are very specific. First, you can use word hunting, where students are actually looking at words from a text. If you give them a short, few sentences text, you can ask them to have, you can give them flashcards of these words and ask them to find these words in the text. They can also match these flashcards with the text and glue them on top of them. They can do sentence matching. If they're getting higher and getting more acquainted with this process, they can match sentences. They can write the sentence and match it with the sentence in the text. Also, they can develop word banks in a small baggie or in a sheet of paper or in their notebook, where they're actually adding words that they need to learn more about to their notebook or to their plastic baggie, cutting and adding them to that. They can also picture match. They can match a picture with the sentence. Which picture describes this sentence? And this way they get to realize and understand that this print is having a meaning, and the meaning is this picture. Give them these texts to practice at home. Take them home and read it to somebody at home. They can even, instead of giving them the text itself, they can rewrite the text, where they're actually developing this mechanic of writing the letters and the words, and put them in sentences and include that in a piece of paper and take it home and reread it to their family. Sentence sequence is something considered as a good exposure for them. They can take these sentences and put them in order based on what they've read in the text. So you can Google this resource, language experience approach, and I can also add it to our resources on Blackboard under the unit file. So other strategies could be introducing the letter and the letter sound. And what I usually used to do when I used to teach ESOL students is to actually practice the letter and the letter sound every day. It's part of our routine where we actually look at the letter, say the letter name, and then say the sound of that letter name. And you can add TPR with it. So if it's a apple, apple, where I'm adding a gesture or a physical response with that sound in order to just get them to remember the sound. Begin developing understanding of letter sounds. That's what we just talked about. Discuss and model the directionality of writing, that this is how we are expected to write from left to right. If the students see you writing from left to right several times using whiteboard or using a small group piece of paper where you actually show them how to write, this repetition builds a habit. Encourage audience, encourage presentations, encourage students sharing. If a student write the cat and you're really proud of him or her writing the cat, why don't you have them present that to everyone, show it to everyone, and have an audience that can clap and say, hooray, good for you. This way you're building, not only that you're building a community, but also showing pride of learning, and this makes the students eager to learn more. The second stage is semi-phonetic spelling, where the students are in this experiential stage. They're getting a little bit of the idea that each letter has a sound. They're not fully mastering this idea, but they are understanding now that there are letters that has sounds. Some of the features or characteristics are, some have not developed directionality yet. They are developing letter sound. They know that the letters come in specific order, and they try to sound, they're starting to use this strategy of sounding out words. Here are some examples. If you notice, you will see that there are spaces between words, actually. Letters are clearer. You can see the W and the T correctly written. The O and NKA is correctly written, different than the previous example, of course. Another example here, the student is trying to put a dot between each word just to, this is the reassurance and probably a strategy the teacher taught them to understand that each word has to come in its own chunked space, and we have to leave spaces. Another example. Well, what could be the teaching strategy for this stage? Again, continue developing letter, sound, phonetic recognition. Encourage them to write. Continue using the LEA, language experience approach. Model writing and read a lot with them. This is in itself a good modeling for the importance of reading and how it looks like, how print looks like. Encourage them to write. Again, go back to developing this audience. Display words used frequently in writing. The word bank could be actually a wall word bank where the students are posting the new words on wall and they see it in front of them in the classroom. Discuss developmental spelling with children and family members. Tell them that we are at this stage now, we are great, we reached this point, we know now the phonic, that the letters have sounds. Let's move forward to the next stage, kind of. Parents are important in this cycle, and it's important for you to have the parental involvement. The third stage is phonetic spelling. So there, it is not experiential anymore. Now they're getting the sounds, the basics of the sounds of the letters. What are the characteristics or features? Select letters. They select letters on basis of sound alone. Now they can show features of sounding out letters and writing them down. And it's readable. You can read the words now. It actually makes sense because the student made an effort in sounding out letters. This is how it looks like. I got bit by maybe mosquito, and it hurt. You can see now that the student was able to sound out letters, but of course vowels are dropping, and knowing vowels and putting them in the middle of a word is a developmental stage in itself, and I think it is the next stage, spelling stage. So they're in the right direction. If you found something like this, then you are in that third stage. Students will get there eventually after you, of course, teach some good strategies. If you see here, it looks much better with more words that make sense, that are readable. What are the strategies that I can use in order to develop this stage? Again, reading daily, model writing, develop awareness of correct spelling, expose children to word families and spelling patterns. Word families is huge, it's big. And here is another resource that I have for you. It's the enhanced learning.com. That's the website. It is great because it gives you the word families list. The ack, add, age, ack, attack, back, black, crack. So they know the sounds of these letters that ends with the same sound. Est, best, nest. Also here, this is a great list that you can use with your students. They can work on it within a group or pairs where they actually respond to each other. Each student will say a word and the other student will reply to them, and they have the ending in front of them. These are some books to print for word families that you can use with your students to get them to practice. Look at a picture. Look at the word cake, flake, bake, and that's another way of good practicing. So it is very important to teach them what is the meaning of word families. It makes a huge difference when they hear the word, they hear the sound, and then they recognize which family does this word belong to, and they write it down correctly because they are exposed to this structure. And teach them how to study word. The fourth stage, we are now in the transitional spelling, where we are not completely competent, but we are almost there. We know now where to put vowels in a word. So it's not only consonants, we can actually put vowels in each syllable. Apply many spelling rules like word families. Spelling resembles correct or accurate English now, and it's easily read. Here's an example. I had a dog, but it died. Its name was Snowball. You can see clarity in how to read it. I have two sisters. I'm so happy to have you for a pen pal. Here's another good readable. If you see here, this example shows a lot of organization skills now. So actually there is a development not only in the writing and word formation, but also in the organizational structure of the text. Now, what can I do in order to develop? What are the strategies that I can do in order to develop this stage to take us to the next stage? Provide correct model of spelling. Always model. Have them find or identified misspelled words. Go back, read your text, find the misspelled words or you think it's misspelled and circle it and tell me how can you fix it? Here are some resources. Go look at these resources and come back and fix it and show it to me. All of this work should happen independently. Provide a spelling program. Here it is becoming essential and very important that you provide a spelling program. One of the most well-known spelling programs is called Word Study, or the book Words Their Way. This is a very good website, spellingcity.com. It provides you with each stage, and they have in Words Their Way, they have their own corresponding stages of these developmental stages that we've just discussed. So for example, stage 1, they call it letter name alphabetic stage. That corresponds with the same developmental stage that we talked about in the developmental stages in our PowerPoint. You'll find examples under each one, and you practice with them from that list how you teach it, what are the important factors that you need to focus on. And for stage number 4 here, it's syllables and affixes stages, where you actually want to teach them more about compound words, affixes, and that's best for stage number 4. Root words, all of that. Other strategies are provide word sorting activities. Have them sort by ending, by prefixes, by suffixes. Extend use of personal word banks. We agreed that we want to have word banks. Continue doing that. Have the students use dictionaries. They're actually sounding out the word in order to find it in a dictionary. They look at it and understand the meaning of it. So that's a good practice of actually spelling and reading and finding information. Continue modeling, continue having the audience, and continue reading. The last stage is the stage of correct spellings, where actually students are developing mastery of spelling. What are the features or characteristics? They are now have internalized the alphabetical principles, have learned basic spelling words, and spell words according to our standards of sounding out. Some of the strategies that you can use with these students is what you can find in the Words Their Way stage, which is the final one, derivational stage, where you actually have derivatives and learn about Greek and Latin roots of words, the morphology, the single parts of speech, suffixes and prefixes. This is a very well developed stage where actually students are getting well informed of the essence of each word. Develop proofreading skills. Have them learn how to edit their own words and where to find information. Another set of strategy will be developing responsibilities for identifying correct words. Encourage use of various strategies when spelling, which is sounding out, word families, endings, roots, looking at the roots of the word, um, and encourage quality writing experiences. Continue to model, continue to have the audience and presentations, and continue to read daily. Here are some of the references that you can use. I hope this helped you to understand more about how to look at teaching spelling, how to connect teaching spelling with the developmental stages of spelling. Do not rush anything, leave everything in its natural order, and just try to feed in the best teaching techniques and strategies for each developmental stage to prep to move to the next stage. Hello, today we're going to talk about developmental spelling stages and teaching strategies. In order to be able to teach spelling, you have to understand two important things. The stages, the developmental stages, where students are at each stage, and what to expect in each stage. And then consequently, develop teaching strategies that best serve these developmental stages.